Yeah, we are Shuffle, and let's just get right into the presentation. All right, I'm Win O'Donnell. I'm the project manager at Shuffle, and I've also been doing a lot of user experience design, so I'm also a user experience designer.
Hi, I'm Reed Dumont. I did content management for Shuffle. I also did user interface design.
Hi, I'm Gabby, and for Shuffle, I worked as a user interface designer and also as a backend developer.
Good morning, everybody. I am Charles. I am a user experience designer. I also worked as the content manager for the team.
Hey guys, I'm James. I was a user interface designer for the first half of this term, or the first term of this project, and the front-end developer for the second half.
Hey, I'm Hunter. I did mostly back and front end development.
Cool. So we are Shuffle, and we want to help connect music lovers with one another to form new friendships online through their shared music taste. Charles is now going to talk a little bit about our user persona that we use to help design this project.
Yeah. So in order to help you better understand the challenge that we are trying to solve here, we have created our user persona to help you guide through the touch points that our application provides. So meet Greg DeJean. Greg recently moved to town to start his new job, and he does not know anyone. Greg has one goal at the moment, and that is to connect with new people and form genuine connections as he navigates a new city. He has major interest in music, so he thinks that would be a good place to start finding new connections. As we dive into our project and later put on a demo, you will be seeing it mainly through the eyes of Greg as he tries to meet his goal and find new people. So this is our basic structure for Greg's journey. In his first phase, he is motivated to find new people. He at this point is hopeful to find new connections. As he begins his search, he is happy to find options that are relevant to him. However, once he downloads the first one that seemed relevant and he, went through the process of user profile creation, he was disappointed at how long the profile creation was and at how little he got back in terms of connections within that application. After being disappointed, he goes back to search and stumbles upon Shuffle. He goes through the Shuffle profile creation and he is feeling good as most of the information was pre-populated for him. Finally, he feels great as he makes a connection within Shuffle and moves to meet in real life.
All right, so let me summarize a bit of what Charles said through our Shuffle elevator pitch. Shuffle is for people looking to make connections who share the same music taste. Shuffle is an interactive application that connects you to people online through shared music preferences. Unlike Bumble BFFs, Shuffle uses your music preference data from Spotify to allow you to connect with others easily and break the ice effortlessly.
So I want to go into a little bit more detail about what Shuffle is and how it works. So Shuffle is an interactive app, as Reed said, and it's a way to connect to others through music. How does it work? So you hook up your your Spotify account that you've already had to Shuffle, and you create a profile through the Shuffle profile creation process. It'll pre-populate this profile creation with your favorite songs and your favorite artists. And you can edit them so that Shuffle knows a little bit better of what you want out of the application. And then based on the information from your Spotify, Shuffle will show you users that listen to the same kind of music that you do and want the same thing out of the app that you want using the Shuffle algorithm. Through this, you can make connections to other people, message them online, and you have to make the moves through the music, but it will show you the people that you can talk to through there.
All right, so as a team, we use many areas of research to provide insight into how to improve our app. These methods include competitive analyses of other similar apps in order to gain an understanding of their strengths and weaknesses. We also use psychology papers and research documents into the psychologies of friendships in order to gain an understanding of how we could better our app to facilitate an environment receptive to making friends. We also made surveys throughout the term that were created to gather input from potential users of the app on certain major decisions. And multiple user personas and journey maps were created so that we could design not for ourselves, but for those users in a sense.
Sorry about that.
All right, so in conducting our user testing, we created a script to accompany each prototype. Our scripts were preceded by an introduction script in which we introduced the application as a concept, and then we gave the elevator pitch that Reed had showed you all to the user to better help them understand what we were about to interact with. So as our prototypes changed and we made adjustments to the scripts as well to make sure we could be gathering data relevant to the changes made. In conducting our dev testing for our coded prototype, we went with a more blind approach where we did not lead the user along the prototype with questions, but rather we sat in as an observer in the back and took notes when needed.
Sorry about that.
So throughout our prototype iterations, we tested component changes on our homepage with our users to find out what experience they enjoyed the most. One of the most noticeable changes our designs went through is the use of color. So the first 4 versions of our app tested the usage of our color palette. And as we moved from iteration to iteration with user tests, we tweaked the colors to match the user's expectation of an app that felt like it was about music. Another noticeable change is the group of music genres. We tested a few different changes with its location, shape and scale, and most importantly, its contrast. Users liked the hierarchy feature we added in version 5 with the bubbles growing in size, but found it hard to read. We then adjusted the color of these bubbles to enhance accessibility, and the final version can be seen here on version 10. Next is the content on the user's profile card. As we move forward in our designs, we wanted to keep our design system consistent, so we adjusted the alignment and size of the user's name and age. And after version 5, we also added pronouns and location, which was requested by our users in our tests. The last noticeable change is the footer navigation. As you can see, it was kept consistent for the first 3 iterations, and none of our users had any negative feedback. So in versions 4 and 5, we added a button to get to the user's own profile, but the feedback we received found that this button was repetitive since it already existed in the header navigation, so it was removed.
I was muted there, my bad. So this following section here refers to the profile screen iterations. So from our first round of testing and data, we received feedback on how we have our information blocked on these pages. We were told that it was too fragmented and like items should be grouped together. So moving forward, we grouped images together and personal information while we also placed music-related blocks together in the same area of the profile. By our 5th prototype, we were getting a lot of feedback related to the recreational activities portion of our profile. So at this point, we decided to revisit if it should remain within our system. We decided after getting user data that it was not on theme, and therefore we decided to remove it. So by our 7th prototype, we had removed the recreational activities portion and had replaced it with a "what are you looking for" block at the top of the profile. At this point, we were getting suggestions for additional data blocks that could help users identify who they are within the music world. By our 10th and final prototype, we had ironed out the "who are you" and "what are you looking for" data blocks and have them included together at the top of the user's profile. The addition of this has been praised by many of our users as we got to conduct our last round of testing and start to allow them to get into our coded realm and version of our prototype and interact with each other. So after creating these 10 versions of our application, one can notice how we consolidated information to make the profiles more streamlined for users to view, while also offering enough information for one another to get to know each other.
So getting profile creation right was crucial to setting the stage for how users saw our app. We needed to strike a balance between establishing the app as a means for meeting new people and differentiating ourselves from similar services like dating apps with our integration of music. Initially, we had most of our profile features split onto individual pages to simplify the flow of tasks for the user. However, we got feedback from users that this was unnecessarily lengthening the profile creation process and also made it difficult to tell what would come next. We also knew that we wanted each user to select an anthem, which is a song that would be displayed prominently on their user profile cards and play when the profile card was clicked on and opened, but we weren't exactly sure how to communicate what that was before the user had experienced it in the app. Many users that we tested initially were also unsure in general of what the app was, even if after we explained our pitch, because we had them select music options to show on their profile before they added a bio or profile images, which caused some of them to miss the social element altogether. Finally, we had a section to add preferences for drinking and smoking on our app as a part of our user profiles initially, because we had taken inspiration from dating apps and thought that the users might appreciate this. However, most users were confused about how this would be relevant to finding a friend to bond over music with, and instead they wanted a way to communicate what kind of connections they were looking for, from chatting to going to concerts to starting a band. So by version 10 of our prototype, we had ironed out most of the usability issues and added the features that most users wanted to see. Profile creation now starts with a condensed series of pages for adding people's names, birthdays, pronouns, bios, and profile pictures. We explain the anthem as a song that represents the user and will be displayed on their profile, which we've validated through user testing as an effective way to describe the feature. To differentiate top artists and songs from the anthem, we combine them onto one page and had them automatically pull from the user's profile. We also have a genre selection feature that allows users to pick 3 top genres that they listen to and rank them through drag and drop. Finally, we got rid of the feature to add drinking and smoking preferences and instead ask users to decide what they consider themselves, including a listener, a dancer, a concert goer, and many other options. So through the 10 design iterations backed by extensive user testing, we've transformed Shuffle into a better version of itself and been able to satisfy most user needs. We also started developing a coded prototype of Shuffle from day one as a different way to visualize features and test the design with users. During the first term, we focused on research and development of core backend functionalities. We decided to work on a coded prototype using JavaScript for a web app to cut down on time spent learning a new language, and learned how to use Node.js and a real-time database to store, manipulate, and transmit user information. The backend technologies that we utilized included Node.js, NodeDaemon, Express, Socket.io, and Firebase. We make and receive calls between our server and client side using Ajax, and we use the Spotify API to get important user information and as our way of logging users in.
So at the start of our second term, we set up our full development environment with Webpack. So using this allowed us to set up modules for every script file and style component we had. And this helped us to really rapidly scale the web app. We also set up hosting with Heroku and GitHub so that once our app was production ready, we can enable auto deployment with our main branch, and users could fully access our most up-to-date web app with an auto-generated link. We used GitHub issues to keep track of open tickets for new or existing edits that needed to be made to the code base, as well as assign tasks to our development team. Some major hurdles our team ran into this term included creating high-level reusable functions, fitting together all the different parts of the app into a functioning system, and cross-browser support for an app that I would ideally run native mobile and not in a browser window. So in the end, we were able to build a fully functional networking app with nearly all the features and functions found in our Figma prototype. Here are some of the technologies we used for front-end development. Once again, we use Webpack for its code splitting feature. And this not only helps with organization in our code base, but allowed us to compile all the scripts and styles and to minimize file sizes for faster load times. We also used EJS as a JavaScripting templating language that we used in conjunction with Express.js to break out our designs into individual templates and components. We also used 3 JavaScript libraries in our code base, jQuery, Moment, and Sortable, and each one of these helped with specific functions in our web app. We also used Cookie Parser, a node package that handled HTML cookies with objects and names, as well as Font Awesome, a vector icon library that we used for icons in our interface.
Thank you, James. So now we'd like to take you through a Harbor Cruise style demo of Shuffle, a mix of our user story for Greg and kind of using our developed prototype. This demo won't necessarily show all of the coded features, but it's meant to show off a user going through the core functionality of Shuffle.
All right, Hunter, I forgot to share sound, so I'm going to do that really quick. Sorry.
All good. So we'll start off the demo right after Greg downloads the app. The first step is going to be logging into Shuffle using Spotify. Once he goes through the API login, Greg then proceeds to go through the the Shuffle profile setup. First, he's going to enter his name, birthday, as well as his pronouns. Then he's going to input his anthem. For this part, Greg will actually be searching the Spotify API for a song to show off as one of the first things users will see about him on his profile. You'll notice that as he makes a choice, a pink check mark appears next to the song, indicating that it's selected. And the same process applies for the playlist. Then he's brought to the genres ranking page where he can select his top 3 favorite genres. Once he has chosen his top 3, he can opt to drag and reorder them as he wants. Next, Shuffle pulls in your Spotify data to pre-populate a list of top artists and songs, saving Greg a little bit of time while getting us the desired information to display on our users' profiles. However, Greg decides that Lost Woods is not really his top 3rd song that he wants, so he edits this out for another song. Here, Greg is able to add common phrases checkbox style to his profile, letting others know what he wants out of Shuffle. And the same process applies for the looking for page. He can display who he is as a person with some predefined options. Here, Greg can, he can enter a short bio about himself, up to 280 characters max, the same length as a tweet. Greg is then able to upload up to 4 pictures of himself. So Greg's profile is now complete, and he's brought to a page that will show off his profile so you can see kind of what it looks like. He then can now continue to see other profiles near him and with a similar taste. He decides to check out who Kiyoshi is. On his profile, he can see his pictures, his music case, can click on any of the content to be brought right to Spotify, and he can even play his anthem right from the app while he checks out his stuff. So Greg decides that Kiyoshi seems pretty cool, and he decides to message him. Here on the chat page, Greg can send messages and receive them as they happen, thanks to our implementation of the Firebase real-time database. And that's the demo.
All right, so let's begin to wrap up with some of our project metrics. We've spent roughly 305 hours actually coding the app prototype. This includes the backend database work as well. We've gone through a total of 10 prototype iterations, each built upon the other based on user testing. And speaking of user tests, as a team, we've completed roughly 144 user tests over the course of this project. And of course, all of this was completed in our 6-month, 2-term timeline. All right, so was this project successful? Well, in terms of a coded prototype, we created what we set out to at the beginning of the term. The coded prototype includes the features of user-to-user messaging, Spotify login integration, auto-populated profile creation, and both of those pull from the Spotify API that we developed, or we didn't develop that, but we used in the app. And on top of this, we developed our Figma prototype into a fully realized version of our app that includes the features we did not have the time to code. Even with the features that had to be dropped due to time, we still managed to develop features for the coded prototype that were not in our target goals. So I would say that this project was a success.
Thanks. So not everything that we planned in our designed prototype was able to be implemented in the coded version because we continued to design different iterations up until the last few weeks of the project. We never wanted what was viable to code to constrain the design. So if we had more time, we would finish fully integrating playing music and playlists from within the app. We would also include a functional settings page with features like setting a maximum distance, an age range, single gender or ghost modes, and an option to hide your profile. Some design issues that we found during user tests of the coded version that we'd also like to resolve include, we learned that users would prefer to be able to search the long list of genres that are available, which we could only find out once they were able to interact with the coded version. We'd also like to conduct more user testing of some of the micro interactions that were developed closer to the end of the timeline, like ranking the top 3 artists and songs. And then finally, we would like to take this project and transition it to Xcode and Swift if we were to take this to a production mode. This was designed for iOS, so we would start there, but eventually we would also like to have an Android version.
Awesome. So Gabby talked a little bit about what we were able to finish in our Figma prototype, and I want to kind of expand on that into what we would do if we had more time with the features that we didn't even start looking at. So one of the things that you may have noticed that we talked about a little bit that we didn't mention at all in our presentation here was the development of the algorithm. The algorithm is what would connect users together and kind of give them this connection through music. It's what would show users the other users that like the same kind of music as them. Unfortunately, as a team, we didn't have the development experience to be able to code an algorithm like this, and it was always out of our scope to be able to do something like that. Although it would have been fantastic to do, this is definitely something that a team that took this project up in the future would have to complete, as it is an essential part of what our application is. Another thing that we didn't quite finish is we had a lot of stretch features that our users suggested or that came up over and over again in our user testing that we weren't sure how to create in Figma and didn't have the time or to code them during the project. One of these features was users wanted to be able to move around the different modals on their profile page so that they could put their favorite thing at the top of their profile instead of having it in the default position. We think that this would be a cool feature, but we weren't quite sure how to implement it within Figma. And we weren't quite sure how to develop it at the time. So yeah. So what did we learn from this project? Well, ultimately our team achieved what we set out to do. As a team, we learned a lot about working together, especially on long-term projects. One of the most difficult aspects of this project was deciding what UX data to use and what to ignore. The main conflicts within our group arose from this issue. If we could start this project from the beginning, there would not be many changes that we would make. One of the major changes would be having the whole team try to understand what was going on with the coded aspects of the project. Towards the second half of the project, only having a few members on the team understand the code became somewhat difficult. This would have put more of a burden on the UX team, but would also have provided them with some much needed insight into the developed side of the project, as they kind of split down the middle and became two separate working things. As a project, Shovel took a lot of work, and for most of the team, this was the most important thing that we've done in the past 2 terms. We are proud of the Shovel project that we created and are satisfied with its conclusion. That's it. If there's any questions, thank you.